So you want to sell this, do you? Well, there's a couple things you gotta know first. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of How My Business Operates, episode 4, licensing and permitting. Now, I was really hoping today that I would make it up to Thomasville so that I could do a How My Business Operates, How I Roast Coffee, which would be way more fun than what I'm going to talk about right now. However, this is a topic that I've been pushing off making a video on, and I think today is the day. So, without further ado, today I will finally be talking about the licensing and permitting behind starting your own coffee roasting company. So if you saw the last video, you know that I'm making a website right now, and I swear it's coming along. I'm moving as quickly as possible as I can on it. I stopped to do things like this, which takes me away from it. Obviously, my work, my 18 other jobs that I have. I have a discussion board due in my class right now, actually, that I stopped so I could do this because I just needed a second. But this information is not going to get too in-depth. I'm going to try to give you a crash course on the licensing and permitting and actual formation or incorporation of a business. The website will have a blog post specifically on licensing and permitting and incorporating your company, and that will be very detailed. This is going to be a little bit of a crash course today because this could get very in-depth, and I would be here for 3 hours talking about all the ins and outs of the licensing and permitting and incorporation of a company, but nobody wants that, and I have to get back to getting my homework done. So, you have this. You have your coffee product, right? We're skipping a couple steps here because I was gonna make these sequential and kind of show you roasting coffee and then talk about where to buy coffee from, the cost of all of these things, where to get bags, how to choose your bags, where to get your labels, how to choose your label, a logo and all that kinds of stuff. And then I was gonna talk about actually establishing a business, but we're skipping ahead. So to those of you that were waiting for this, you're welcome. Now, I'm going to preface everything I say today with the fact that I am not a lawyer. I am not a business lawyer. However, I have talked to many business lawyers. So today, if you ever hear me say, this is what I would do, or this is what I would suggest, or I think X, Y, or Z is best, it's simply me saying, this is the advice that I've picked up along the way from actual lawyers and what I'm passing along to you. I'm also speaking somewhat from my own experience, but again, I'm not giving anybody legal advice, and I'm not telling you what to do. I'm simply saying this is what I did, and this is what I have been told. And lastly, laws vary state to state. You have to be familiar with the laws in your own state. Again, I am not a lawyer. I don't have the time or will to go through all of the laws in all 50 states as they pertain to roasting coffee. With all that being said, let's dive right into it. To operate any business, you need a business license to make sure that you comply with local regulations. There's different types of business licenses. We're going to talk about a general business license because that's what's going to pertain to you. Other licenses would be a professional license, a health and safety license, then you have like sign permits, and then you have sales tax licenses. So a general business license doesn't change depending on the industry, which is why I say any business needs a business license, and this general business license will apply to anybody who's starting any kind of company, such as a coffee roasting company. And it's very straightforward. You can look up how to apply for a general business license online, and it will walk you through the steps and have you fill out all the information necessary. A professional license is for those who are operating an accounting firm, a law firm, maybe they're a hairdresser. This shows that you are able and qualified to perform the service that you are saying you can provide people. This is not required for coffee roasters. Then we get into health and safety permits. Now, FDA deems coffee a non-consumable product. So if you're just selling roasted coffee beans, you don't have to worry about this. Think of it like this. If I were to go into a grocery store and buy a raw cut of meat, let's say a raw piece of chicken, and I go home and I just eat that raw piece of chicken and get listeria, I can't come back and say, hey, you sold me that piece of chicken and it made me sick. I'm suing you. They would look at you first like you're a crazy person because you ate a piece of raw chicken. But then second, they would say, well, okay, you're supposed to cook the chicken. And that's how the FDA looks at things like that. If somebody were to go home and just eat roasted coffee beans and get sick from them for some reason, then the FDA essentially would look at them, or you could look at them and go, well, you're supposed to brew them. Like, you're not supposed to just eat those coffee beans. If you go to a restaurant, now you're getting served the final product. It's directly consumable. And so if you eat that meal and you get listeria because there's undercooked chicken, that's when the FDA would come in and start taking action. Since coffee beans aren't directly consumable, this circumvents that problem of running into somebody suing you because they were harmed by drinking your coffee. So yes, maybe there was something wrong with my coffee beans. And in that case, if multiple people who are buying your coffee start getting sick, I'm sure the FDA would do something about it. you'd have some sort of health inspection or something would happen. It wouldn't just go unnoticed. But for the most part, you don't have to get one of these health and safety permits. Second thing, business entity. So you have to incorporate your company. And now there's 4 major ways that you could do this. You have sole proprietorships, you have corporations, you have partnerships, and you have limited liability companies. All of these differ in many ways, and I'm not going to get into that because that's one of the things that would make this video 16 hours long. But that's something that I'll go into in my blog post. What exactly makes these different? Because you might want one over the other. Now, I suggest personally, this is not legal advice, that you incorporate as an LLC. How you want your company to operate is going to dictate which of these you incorporate as. They differ in protections, state filing fees, how you manage your business, and taxes. My personal opinion, LLC is king. In short, taxes are simple, and personal assets are not connected to the company if the LLC is in litigation. Those are pretty much the 2 most important things that you could be concerned about when you're operating your own company. So an important thing to note is that a business license is not the same thing as an LLC. They're 2 very different things. Both are required if you want to legally operate in a given city, county, or state. And these things are not hard to do. You can literally go on Google and search how to get a business license or how to get a general business license. Then you can also go online and look up how to form an LLC. And these websites will walk you through step by step. It's very, very simple, and honestly the cost is pretty low. And I can speak to that about Florida. I don't know about other states because I haven't incorporated in any other states, but I know Florida is not expensive to file and form an LLC. And I feel like a lot of people like to ask about the taxes specifically, how this differs when you sell online versus if you're just selling in a store. What happens is, Florida, again, I'll speak to what I know and what I do. Coffee sales are tax exempt in Florida. The selling of just roasted coffee beans is tax exempt. I don't pay sales tax. So when I'm selling online, it's basically like I'm making a sale in Florida. It doesn't matter if somebody that I'm selling to is in Colorado, Kansas, California, Mississippi, Kentucky, it just doesn't matter. So if I'm selling in Florida and I'm actually selling in Florida, if I'm actually selling in Florida, like if I'm physically selling in Florida, then I'm exempt from sales tax. If I'm selling online and somebody buys it, my company, my LLC, is based in Florida. So I abide by the tax regulations of Florida, and coffee under Florida's tax code is tax exempt. Now, I sell coffee out of a store in Thomasville, Georgia, so I have to abide by the local tax regulations of Thomasville, Georgia, and those can change county to county, and you have to make sure that you check those kinds of things. If you're just selling statewide, or if you're selling in person only in state, then you're going to be fine as long as you're abiding by those state tax regulations. And if you're selling online, you're okay as long as you abide by the tax regulations of the state that your LLC is filed in. And that's something that's even a little more specific than I wanted this video to get into, but it's important. So to recap, what all do you need, licensing and permitting wise, to start your own coffee roasting company legally? That's going to come down to filing a business license, a general business license, in incorporating your business as an LLC. And the question that I feel like I would get is, which comes first? Well, the LLC will come first, or whatever you decide to incorporate as will come first. Because in order to file for a general business license, you need to provide the name, the approved name. That name gets approved in the process of filing for an LLC. It has to be approved in order to obtain the LLC or form the company. So you know then when you go to apply for a business license that your name's already approved. If you end up having to change your name, there's a filing fee associated with that. So you're just kind of tacking on the fees one after the other. Like I said, it's not that expensive to do. However, you want to minimize the amount of fees that you're paying, obviously. So that was licensing and permitting. I'm going to try to write this blog post. It's not going to be fun. I'm not a lawyer. Both my parents are lawyers. I watched them do that and said, heck no, I don't want to do that. But I'll do it because it pertains to coffee. And if it pertains to coffee, I can make some exceptions. So hopefully that was short and sweet and simple enough that it gives you a good idea of the kinds of obstacles that you're going to have to face if you're actually starting a company and going the distance to form a legitimate LLC, get your business license, and then make this a full-blown thing, which I 110% support. I'm starting a new series called Monetize Your Hobby, and I think that video might actually be out before I post this one, but we'll see. I have 18 different videos to edit that I took. I still have to do my discussion board and stuff. Okay, wrap this up. Again, hopefully you learned something from this. Hopefully this helped you. Hopefully it was somewhat enjoyable. You get yourself to this point where you have a nice, delicious smelling bag of freshly roasted coffee, labeled, bagged, heat sealed, good to go. You can't hurt this thing. Can't really hurt this thing. ready to go on the shelf, sellable coffee, it's time to make sure that you got all this stuff lined up. And hopefully today I've given you something to help you move forward in that process. So if you enjoyed, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. I've actually never said that in a video before because I don't want you guys to think I make these for that reason. I don't. I enjoy making these videos. I joke about doing this one on licensing and permitting just because it's a little dry and I would rather make a video on me roasting coffee because that's way more fun. But I'm rambling at this point, so hopefully, again, you enjoyed this, you learned something. Comment if you have any specific questions, and I will see you in the next video.